All right. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you here for the August edition of Scrum Professionals Meetup, first Thursday of the month. Glad to see you all here. I do want to start out with sharing a little bit of sad news. Some of you know this already, but this week, the Agile community lost one of my personal friends, one of my heroes, and someone who worked at Agile Learning Labs for about 3 years, Steve Bachman. And Steve was, several of you are nodding your heads, several of you knew Steve. Steve was amazing, great Agilist, taught me an awful lot, and created lots of training. Some of the training exercises we still use to this day were created by Steve. I wrote kind of a tribute and some thoughts and memories and stuff to Steve. So dropped a link to that in the chat if you're interested. And I just kind of like to dedicate tonight's activities to Steve's memory. This is the sort of interactive thing that he would have been all over. So thanks for letting me share that little tribute and appreciation to, like I say, somebody who is absolutely, been one of my heroes. He was there very, very early on in Agile Learning Labs journey. So welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Sims. I am a Scrum trainer and an Agile coach. I've been doing this Agile Learning Labs thing since 2007. And I'm thrilled that I get to do it with Betty, who's here and was working the front door at our meetup today. And season. These days I get a season at Agile Learning Labs, which is super awesome. And so that's me. I'm going to be your guide today. And I'm thinking we're going to just, kind of jump right into it. So today's topic is coaching with questions. And our networking prompt was, when you think about a coach, what do you think that is? What do you think a coach does? I'd be curious just for a few people to share like some of the thoughts that came up in the breakout room. Like, what is a coach? Because we hear this whole coaching and Agile coaching and Scrum Masters are coaches. In your opinions, your thoughts, what does that mean? Raise your hand if you'd like to share your thoughts about that. Joe.
Helping people and teams figure out where they want to go.
I like that, helping people and teams figure out where they want to go. Sandra, Agile Chef, what are your thoughts?
When I'm coaching or mentoring, I'm always looking for it to be collaborative. And so because I learn so much from everyone who I coach and mentor, and I really am hoping that it's not just let me plunk in front of you, Sandra, and fill my cup, or my cup's already full, I don't have anything to learn. It really, when it's very collaborative, then the best magic happens. It's more fun.
I love that. Maybe a couple other thoughts. What is coaching? What does a coach do? In your opinion, there's not a right or wrong answer here.
Yeah, I would say a coach can someone who can help you kind of think outside the box, walk you through thinking outside the box when you're thinking about a particular idea or something.
I love that. Love that. Thanks to Rocco. Maybe one more. Season.
Yes, I saw Chris put in a chat, we had a discussion about how mentoring and teaching can be aspects of coaching, but how they are also sort of distinct from having a coaching mindset.
Oh, I love that one. And that's maybe a great prompt for me to drop a link in the chat to a short article I wrote years ago called "A Scrum Master is a Teacher, a Mentor, a Coach, and a Facilitator." Doug, what are your thoughts?
I always think about sports. I'm not certain why, but when I think about really, really good coaches, they're able to take individuals and together achieve results that go beyond the sum of each of the individuals and get more out of the team. There's a better and more eloquent way to say it. I'm not certain, but I think you know what I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of Phil Jackson. So I'm not a huge sports fan, but I did live in Chicago during the Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan era. And the thing that Phil Jackson, the coach of the Bulls during that time, was really known for was being able to take a group of individuals who perhaps might otherwise be that, like, solo player that tries to do it all on their own and be a star, but their team doesn't win a championship, and get them to work together as a true team, right? And collaborate and cooperate so that the team succeeds. And he definitely did that for 6 years, 6 championships at Chicago. And then when Chicago, the ownership of that team had a falling out with him, he went off to Los Angeles, for a rebuilding year and led them to a championship. So maybe there was something there.
Interesting fun fact that goes along with that. I believe the way he facilitated their collaboration was by establishing frameworks so they could think on their feet and make decisions as a team real time in the game instead of giving them designated plays.
Yeah. His triangle, was it a defense? Was it an offense? Again,
in both cases, I think there was a triangle framework. Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, I always like the sport analogy in terms of thinking about the fact that the team run onto the pitch and you don't as a coach. So you're there, but you're not on the pitch. You're not solving the problems on the pitch. You're not trying to figure out how to win the game on the pitch. So your job is not to solve problems and stuff like that. You're giving them the tools and techniques to be able to run the pitch and solve their own problems. So anytime when I'm thinking about coaching, I think about that analogy of you don't join the game, you're not part of the game, and you're not a problem solver in the game. So you stand out, you help them, but they're the ones who run on the pitch and do the thing. And always have that mindset when I'm thinking in that space.
Oh, I love that. And Olaf's got a really good one in the chat. A coach, someone who is intensely curious about other human beings and their experience of being human.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Wow. I just knew with this group, there'd be like all sorts of insightful ideas and observations and thoughts on, like, what is a coach and what does a coach do, and all of that. So one of the things that I think helps a coach do that, right? Helps the coach like bring a bunch of individuals together and help them kind of become a team, and also to help them figure out their own stuff, right? Not give them solutions, but help them find solutions, help them work out their own solutions, is using questions, right? I think questions are arguably the most powerful tool that a coach has. And and I will call out that we have like a certified coach among us, Season, right? Season is was it American Coaching Federation? Help me out? What's the organization?
It's the International Coaching Federation Associate Certified Coach.
There we go. Yeah. So yeah, when I blunder and say something terrible, you just jump in and correct me, please. But yeah, I think questions are really powerful. And so I have over the years created this collection of like what I think of as interesting and useful coaching questions. And so tonight I'm going to share that list with all of you. And we're going to do a little work with it. First, like exploring like how could you use the questions, and then getting some hands-on practice actually using them. So let me share my screen and show you what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to send you off to fresh breakout rooms in small teams. So 2 to 4 people for this exercise. Each team is going to get their own copy of this 100 questions sheet. Over here in the first column, guess what? Those are the questions. And your job as a small team is to decide for each question, oh, what's that question useful? Is it useful for eliciting vision or goals? Is it useful for clarification, elaboration or expansion, eliciting examples, assessment or analysis, identifying options, identifying resources, action planning, capturing learning, or finding meaning? And I will right off the bat say, these categories are not mutually exclusive, right? You might look at these and say, wow, it feels like there's some overlap between them. I wouldn't argue with you at all. And you may feel that a particular question is useful in multiple of these, for multiple of these purposes. So what I'm going to have you do is in your breakout room, kind of go through the list any way you want. You could split it up amongst the team members. You could talk about each one individually. There's no wrong way to do this. But for each question, right, like what are the possibilities? Goodness, that to me sounds like maybe eliciting examples, maybe identifying options, maybe even vision or goals. So I'm going to copy this, right? And I found lately with Google Documents, the keyboard options for copy and paste seem to be more reliable. I don't know what's up with Google Docs recently, but they're a little funky with copy and paste. How do you not get copy and paste right? So, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to say, yeah, it might be useful for that. And I like it for that. Actually, maybe those are my two favorites, right? And I'm going to come down here like, what else? Oh, what else could be for, maybe elaboration, right, et cetera. So I'm going to just take that and paste it in there, so on and so forth. And ultimately, what you're going to end up with is these lists for each column, list of questions that are useful for that purpose. Sneak preview, later on in the evening, you're going to be doing some coaching. And when you are the coach, the only thing you will be allowed to do is ask questions from this list. And so, in the moment as a coach, when you're thinking about what's my purpose here, right? Do I want to get this person to kind of elaborate and tell me more? Do I want to transition them into analysis, right? Do I want to move them on to action planning? You'll have a list of questions that you can look at and say, maybe one of these questions will help me guide this person. So you are going to have 10 minutes in your breakout room. The way this will work is I am going to drop a set of links into the chat at this time. Don't click on them yet. Oh, of course, the chat can't handle that many. All right, so we'll see if the chat can handle 10.
Uh-oh, that
No.
many?
Let's see here. I know it can do 8. There we go. All right. And let's see how many we are going to need. Oh, that is going to be fine, actually. So what is going to happen is once you get into your breakout room, have a look and see, like, oh, what room am I in? And then, let's see, hold on, I'm moving one person. There we go. See what room you're in, right? Look at the top of the Zoom window and it'll say, room 1 or room 2. Once you're in the room, click on the team link in the chat that corresponds to your room number. That will open up a copy of that spreadsheet for your team. And then have at it. Start sorting questions into columns. If you need help when you're in the breakout room, click the request help button and I will magically appear in your breakout room and render assistance. Any questions before I send you off to meet your teammates? All right. You are going to have 10 minutes to do the sorting. And then this time when the 10 minutes is up, you will get a 30-second little warning dialogue. So you can kind of wrap up nicely and not feel like you were just abruptly pulled out of your breakout room. That was so rude that I did that. It was like networkus interruptus or something. I don't know. Anyway, have fun sorting the questions. Click request help if you need help. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. So do me a favor. If you are still like actively in the spreadsheet and copying, pasting, or moving something, stop. And in fact, maybe even click up into cell A1 where it says 100 questions, because I am going to do a quick little magic to bring all of your topics to the top. There we go. And team 3 is all at the top. Team 2 is all at the top, and teams 1, 3, 4, and 5 already all at the top. Nicely done. Nicely done. So you've got a collection of questions now that you've at least had a chance to look at and think about. And so now you're going to get a chance to put it into practice, to actually use those. And so what's about to happen is I'm going to share the instructions in chat for our next part of the activity. There they are. And what we're going to do is we're going to run a little role play. So I'm going to send you back to your breakout room. And this is set up for 3 people. If you've got 4 people in your breakout room, you get an extra observer, and that'll be okay. So the Scrum Master will start the role play. So the roles are Scrum Master, Development Team Member. I guess that would just be developers now that the language has been changed. I have to tweak that. And Observer. And so the Scrum Master starts things out. It's a little coaching conversation that the Scrum Master is going to have with the developer. And the Scrum Master says, "How can I help?" And after you say, "How can I help?" the whole conversation is focused on helping the development team member. But the rule is the only thing you get to say are questions from that sheet. Right? So you're going to have to try to guide the conversation just using questions from the sheet. So try to think about like, oh, as this person's talking, where does this conversation need to go next? Do you need to, get more information? Do you need them to start thinking in terms of problem solving? Do you want to narrow things down? Do you want them to get into action planning? Like, what is it? Development team member, your job is to think about a challenging decision that you need to make or might need to make in the future. And it can be in any realm. It could be at work, could be a situation from the past, could be in your personal life. Just really, it's like you've got some sort of decision. You're not sure what to do about it. Cost of living here in the Bay Area is so high. And so we're thinking about maybe moving somewhere else, but we're not sure if we should, and we're not sure where it would be. And I just don't know, whatever it is, right? Just some decision. And you're seeking out some help from this coach, right? Who in the role play happens to be your Scrum Master. Observer, you're just paying attention to what's going on. And feel free to take any notes you might want to take. At number 1, you're going to learn by seeing like, how do the questions shape the conversation? And then at the very end, you're going to be giving feedback to that Scrum Master about, what did you notice about how they use the questions, and, what did they do well? What could they maybe do better? So the timing is going to look like this: 5 minutes for the conversation to happen, and then 2.5 minutes of feedback from the team member, right? Like, how did it work for you, right? Was the coaching session helpful? Did you feel supported by the coach? That sort of thing, what could have been better? And then 2.5 minutes from the observer. And if you happen to be blessed with an extra observer, just adjust the timing slightly to get feedback from both observers. I will try to send little heads up when we're at the 5-minute mark and at the 7.5-minute mark, etc. But I am going to send you off for the full 10 minutes. And then when we come back, we'll do it all again. We'll rotate roles. So we're going to do it a total of 3 times. So everybody should have a chance to practice, except in the room with four, sorry, room with four. But I think Season, did I put you in the room with four? No, I thought I did. Ooh,
No.
shame on me. Okay, but let me see. Hold on. Who do I got in my room with four? Oh, I've got Betty. Betty, are you willing to be the person who doesn't get a chance to be the coach? Are you okay with that?
I'm down for that.
All right. I appreciate it, Betty. Any questions before I send you off to practice using the technique? So 5 minutes for the, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I inferred that you were gonna like merge all of these spreadsheets together, or are we supposed to use the one we originally used?
Use the one you originally used. And yeah, they should all I did was sorted them so that any blank space in the columns was taken away so that all the questions would be up towards the top for easy reference.
Do have another room with 4 people in it, unless you've changed something.
Oh, I see room 3, right? Because we had somebody new join. Sorry about that. Rob, would you be willing to kind of be a coach the coach in room 3? Yes. I appreciate that very much. And Olaf, thanks for alerting me to that. I appreciate that very much. I love this community. I love how supported I am in doing this. So you all are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions before I send you off for your first practice round? All right. So one person's the Scrum Master who will do the coaching. One person is the person getting coached, the developer, and the other folks are observers. 10 minutes total for this round, and then we'll come back. And then, you'll rotate roles. We'll do it again. As always, if you need help, click the request help button. Welcome back. Welcome back. Everybody else will be back in about 10 seconds.
That was really fun, Chris.
I love that. I'm glad to hear that. And here they come. All right. I hope that was fun. I hope it was useful, and because we're about to do it again. Same groups, new roles. So drop you back in for 10 minutes, pick a new role, and have at it. If you were paying close attention, you may have seen near the end, I actually updated the instruction sheet. I couldn't help myself. And also, I've got an extra request for our observers. So while you were observing, if you could multitask just a little and help me out by keeping an eye on time. So I'm going to be sending the messages in as well, but you're there if you can keep an eye. And when it says 5 minutes remaining, or maybe a little bit before when it says like 5.5 minutes remaining, let your Scrum Master and developer know, hey, it's time to wrap up your coaching conversation. All right. Any questions before I send you back off to try it again in a new role? All right.
What part did you change?
Oh, from development team member to developer, and just
when
I first created the exercise, the role in the Scrum guide was called development team, and in 2020 they updated it to developer. So I thought, well, I'm using Scrum roles here. I might as well update the language.
Cool.
All right. I couldn't help myself. I just couldn't help it. All right. If you need help, click the request help button when you're in the breakout room and I will drop in. Otherwise, have a good coaching conversation.
Chris, you have permission to copy these questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I encourage you to copy them. In fact, if you want, you can make your own copy of the whole spreadsheet. Totally cool with that. But yeah, absolutely copy the questions, The more
Over what amount of time did these evolve, Chris?
I have been collecting these for goodness, 15 years. So, and still run into good ones that it's like, oh, that's a good question. I want to remember it. So it continues to evolve and change. All right, one more round. There should be one of you who hasn't had the chance to be the coach. This is your time to shine. I think you know the routine by now, so see you back in 10 minutes. Any questions before I send you off? All right. And here comes everybody back from their coaching conversations. So I am just dying to hear how that went. So if you'd like to share an observation, a thought, just like what did you notice, what came up for you, raise your hand and let's hear about what was going on in the breakout rooms. Sandra.
This works for all kinds of things. We used it for what to be
bathroom
called,
renovation. Mhm.
yeah, what to be called as a grandparent for a new grandkid, whether to do a renovation, whether to stay with, a role, or how to transition from the world of education into product owner or scrum master. It works for all kinds of things. That was very impressive.
Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. Thanks for sharing it. Kathleen.
To find my mute button. I really found it challenging to only use the questions on the spreadsheet. And I also found it really challenging to not want to lead the witness, as it were, even though I know that's not the goal, right? But thinking about it in this way, like going into a session thinking, okay, you can only ask questions. I think if I could frame that, that would help me remember I'm really here to help open a door so that they can decide if they want to walk through. I don't get to pick which door.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I have to say, I have been guilty in the past of leading the witness. And I have been guilty in the past, when I was like learning how to use questions, which by the way is an ongoing process that never ends. But I've been guilty of, using questions like, have you thought about this solution? Which is not really a question.
No.
Olaf, what do you got?
I want to add that I gave Kathleen a really nice big trap to walk into, and she did not. So I thought that was awesome.
Oh, I am so curious. Daniel.
Season gave some really great advice that I hope is going to stick with me, which is that you should start with a question that expands instead of starting by trying to get to the bottom of the solution space.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I often find that so many important conversations, whether they're coaching conversations or product development conversations, follow this pattern of expansion, refinement, and re-expansion, and then re-refinement. And yeah, I love that. Love that. What else did people notice? What observations do you have? Maybe what thoughts or questions came up for you? Joe.
Yeah, group 3, the most recent example that we used, it was a scenario that's common enough that any practice scrum masters will have experienced it. And right away you start thinking, oh, this is what I've done, this is what I want to do, this, and yeah, so it was kind of tough to hold back and stay on script.
How'd you do?
I failed.
Rob did pretty well.
I went off script. Sorry.
A little bit.
Well,
just a little bit of improv.
Yeah, coaching is something that we practice, right? It's not something that we do perfectly. We practice it. Kind of like physicians. They're just practicing medicine. Michael.
Yeah, making sure for me when I was doing it that my curiosity wasn't driving my questions. Because you hear something in a sentence or something like that, you think, well, that's interesting. I want to know more about that. But it's a case of, well, but that's my focus. And is that the person's focus, and trying to clarify, actually, is it the person's focus? Did they say it offhand and it's not really something? So making sure my curiosity doesn't direct my questions, I think is one of those things I have to learn to do.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's like, on one hand, as coaches, our curiosity can be one of our most powerful, traits or tools. But I love that shaping it with, is chasing down this helpful to the person that I'm working with? I love that. I love that. That meta thinking. That's fantastic. What else? What else? Comments, observations, questions?
I found it hard to refer to so many questions at once.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It'd be tough to do this live on video. But however, if we're just writing and not video, we could actually do some copy and pasting pretty rapidly.
Yep. I like that. I like that. Doug, what do you got?
I was just going to say, I found it really, really difficult to listen and then go to the question list and figure out what question to ask. And so at some point in time, I just stopped looking at the question list and just made them up on my own about what I thought was relevant. It just felt really difficult to try to ask questions from the question list. I'm not saying the question list wasn't good, but to figure out, okay, well, I'm looking at 20 questions, those don't make sense. As I'm scrolling through, and then anyway.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hoping for is that the categories are useful, because if you get to the point where you're like, what kind of question do I need right now? Do I need an elaboration question? Do I need a narrowing down and focusing question? Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I get that, right? Trying to look through a big list in real time. Absolutely. I get that's challenging. What else?
Well, we got into discussion regarding that too. So maybe to better offer these questions is you become familiar with the list and then pick ones that are more meaningful to you, and then remember those like a subset.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions, comments?
Yeah, just to add in to what Rob said, I can see going through those and developing my top 10 go-to questions, right? And just and then always using using those with a couple of others, but to guide, because I can see that being extremely useful and helpful.
And what would that get you?
More effective discussions.
What is stopping you?
What is that? I love it.
Absolutely nothing.
I do want to call out a funny moment in our room that happened where Doug was talking about just someone that Doug was frustrated with in a fake work scenario, and Doug said, yeah, and I could just bop them on the head with a hammer, and Daniel comes in and asks, are there any other options?
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. So I'm curious. I'd love to do just a lightning fast kind of quality review and feedback for the exercise. So I'm going to use fist to 5. It's a way of doing rating from 0 to 5. So from 0 to 5, just holding your fingers up, however many numbers is appropriate in your camera. How would you rate this on the scale of fun? See what we got. Ooh, lots of 5s. Okay. Steve would be happy. Although I realized when I set this up and dedicated it to Steve, and I said, oh, this is the kind of thing that Steve would probably do. There were 2 things missing. Number 1, I totally should be wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Right? Steve was always in a Hawaiian shirt. And number two, if Steve had designed this exercise, there absolutely would have been paper airplanes somewhere along the way. He often used paper airplanes in his exercises. Okay, so fun was pretty high. Usefulness and learning, fist to 5. How'd you do? Was a good use of your time? Oh, okay, all right. Awesome, awesome, love that. Final parting thoughts about coaching with questions.
I actually have a question, which is like, how often do you use these questions when you are coaching? Like a percentage maybe of the interactions you have with others?
So I will say that the work that I do and that a lot of us do that kind of we broadly call coaching is actually a mix of coaching and teaching and mentoring. And gosh, with each client, it's a little bit different mix. But I will say that when I am firmly wearing the coaching hat, I would say I'm using questions at least 50% of that time. And and the more I'm using them, usually the better it goes. But I do find that, you know, what we often think of as agile coaching seems to involve a mix of coaching and then like filling in missing pieces of information and, you know, giving guidance and, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah. I'm curious, other folks, I know we've got several people here who are actually quite accomplished agile coaches. I'd love to hear your answers to Daniel's question. Michael.
Oh, different point, sorry.
Oh, so keep your hand up. Who else? I'm going to pick on Season. What would you say? Like when you're
No,
percentage?
but yeah, I told my group I kind of am cheating at this because when I went through my ICF ACC training, which I did with an amazing place called the Academy of Creative Coaching, you do it for a couple weekends, and then after your training, you do it in small groups, and then you have a mentor. We did exercises very, very similar to this. So we got in a lot of practice in it in the training, to the point where I would say it comes naturally. And I'm not kind of sitting there in my coaching sessions with the sheet open, looking at the questions, but every question that I do use in my sessions comes from my training and from doing exercises exactly like this. So in groups like this, in those trainings, you get that weird, awkward, like, robotic, what are your options? I am scrolling down on this sheet and there's an awkward pause while I ask you a question. Like, you get it all out there in the safety of those groups. So when you're out in the real world coaching, it can come a little bit more smoothly.
Nice, nice. Anyone else want to respond to Daniel's question? Like, how much do you use questions when you're coaching out in the field? Doug.
Well, I had a question, actually. What happens when you want to just bop them on the side of the head and tell them what to do? I know it's politically incorrect, but
and if you could do that, what would you get? Joe, is this a new question or a response?
I'm hoping it's a response. But
yeah.
But I use the questions all of the time, even when I'm pseudo coaching my kids. I'll pull from. We were talking about it in one of our breakouts. I'll have the powerful questions list at hand, and then and then with a little bit of practice, able to deviate from the verbatim questions. But yeah, if you're coaching, it's all by the questions. My perspective.
Ah, love it. Thanks. Olaf, do you have a response to Daniel or a new question?
No, it would be to Daniel and Doug, I guess. I don't necessarily keep track of when I do this, but one thing I try to be mindful of is to ask for permission. That I don't just throw a coaching question at people, but I like preface it with, can I ask you a weird question, or can I ask you an irritating question, or something that primes them a little bit for that they might have an emotional reaction to the question.
Mhm.
And then about the advice part that Doug was saying, that's just business as usual, man. Everybody does that to everybody all the time at work. Advice giving is like drinking water.
Or sometimes having water thrown at you. I'm not sure. Maybe you're the one throwing the water. I don't know, the analogies. Sandra, new question or response to Daniel?
A little bit of both, I suppose.
Okay.
So in the role that I have, and being the person that oftentimes things get escalated to, or I'm brought in to the strategic part of things, it had gotten into the, well, we've tried to figure it out and now you need to solve it. And it took a lot of practice for me to, and I had this on a little post-it, not my circus, not my monkey. This is theirs. So what is it that you would like to do? What do you think is the next step? And then with a couple of individuals who just were not, they were trying to wait me out, like if they, and so I got to the point of saying, I know that you're used to me fill in the blank, like solving this for you or giving you the options. And I actually had to say, that's not really working for me anymore, or I don't think that that's working really well here. And so that was my very gentle kind of Bob. So sometimes it would be, it was basically they were trying to come into my virtual office and drop off their monkeys. And I was like, no, 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 you've got to take these with you or turn them around. So sometimes I needed to say, oh, I've got a call or I've got a dash or whatever, something to basically gracefully not continue, and to say, let's get together at this time. And I'm sure by then you'll have some other options we can discuss. So it really had to go in that way, because my kids have turned mom into a verb. The momming in me, of course, wants to solve it, of course wants to have it all work out in that way. And whether it's the office mom or however it is, or the parent, let's broaden it out to parenting. Fiercest creature in nature is parent protecting child, and it doesn't have to be your actual kidlets, and at all ages. So it's really that transition, because who doesn't want to come in and swoop in and be the person who has it all figured out? But it's not always the right thing.
Agile coach to the rescue.
I'm sure there's theme music.
Okay.
Yeah. Michael, you were super patient. What did you have for us?
I think my headphones were a bit funny, but no, it was just in terms of the session, Chris, that maybe be really useful to frame some of the how to get into the coaching piece and how to end it. Not go through the entire coaching process, but just maybe saying, hey, if you want to do this and you want to start this, you haven't done this before, maybe this might be the first question you want to ask before you come into it. It's just a kickoff for them, that framing of it was just a suggestion, because anyway, that was just it. And also that importance of understanding what coaching stance you're in, whether you're meant to be educating, whether you're meant to be mentoring, or whether you're meant to be facilitating or coaching, and making sure you're not mixing them up, or making sure that you understand which one you're in at that point in time is really important.
Nice. Thank you, Michael. And Lisa Atkins had some really cool thoughts on coaching stances. Daniel and then Joe.
You may not want to answer this because it could go on as long as the last one, but I was going to ask, has this line of questioning ever led people down a path that you were really concerned about? And what do you do if that happens?
Interesting. I think there does come a point, right, where if you get like really concerned, like, oh, right, boy, the stuff they're thinking about, I think, is really problematic either for them personally or the organization or the team. There's probably a point where you have to take the coaching hat off for a moment and say, hey, I have some concerns here, and, you know, let's talk about that. I've had, so I've got this story, and it's not exactly an answer to the question, but, and it wasn't exactly coaching, it was more facilitating. Early on in my journey, I was working with an organization, right? They were adopting Scrum. It was pretty bumpy. And I was working with one of the teams that was really struggling. And, you know, the leaders, the powers that be were like, oh, we're going to have Chris come in and facilitate one of your retrospectives so you can see, like, you know, how that goes, right? And so, okay, I'm, you know, in facilitating retrospective with this team, and they're not having it. Right? They're like, this is stupid. We hate Scrum. We don't want to do Scrum. Right? I'm like, okay, well, I'm hearing that, you know, you're not happy. Tell me about what's not working for you. Well, Scrum, we hate Scrum. We don't want to do it. That's what's not working. Right? And I was asking questions to try to, like, get information and help them, like, you know. So eventually I'm like, well, I mean, we're in a retrospective. The whole purpose is to identify things that aren't working and try to, you know, try alternatives. And they were like, well, we just don't want to do Scrum. And I'm like, okay, fine. This is your retrospective. It sounds like the experiment you want to try is to stop using Scrum. And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, you're a self-organizing team, because that's what we called it back then. And I guess if that's your decision, that's your decision, right? So our takeaway from our retro is we're going to go back and we're going to work the way we worked before all this Scrum stuff. And they were like, yeah. And, like, this was really early in my journey. And this was, like, a big important client for me. And, you know, they had brought me in to, like, make sure this team is going to do Scrum and do it well. And so I was, like, inside, I'm, like, screaming, like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm going to lose the gig, and, you know, that'll be terrible. But I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that'll be our takeaway, right? No more Scrum, right? This team's not going to do Scrum. We're going to go back to what we were doing before. And they were like, yeah. And they were like, we can do that. And I'm like, you know, you're a self-organizing team. If that's how you want to organize yourself, is exactly the way you used to do things. Yeah, that's how you could self-organize. Go right back to what you used to do. And they're like, okay, good. And they looked at me like, really? I'm like, I don't work here, right? I can't tell you yes or no, but, you know, if you're a Scrum team and you get to choose how you work, then yeah. They looked at each other. And then someone said, well, you know, the bit where our product person sits with us, that's actually been really helpful. Can we keep that part? I was like, sure. They're like, oh, okay, good. Actually, you know, checking in with each other every day has been kind of helpful too. Could we do? Yeah, you could do that part. And basically they brought back all the parts of Scrum except the retrospective. And so at the very end, I swear this is a true story. At the very end, I said, you know, I'm really excited for all of you, because you're choosing, you know, how you want to work, and you're owning it and you're making it yours. Would it be okay with you all if I came back in 2 weeks to just check in, like get together with you all and just see how it's gone and see if there's any changes you want to make? And they're like, yeah, that would be super helpful. I was like, awesome, I'm putting it on my calendar. I was terrified though the whole way. I mean, it's a funny story now, but at the time, as it was happening, I was like, I'm so fired, right? Because this team is going to go back to their managers and say, you know, the Agile coach says we don't have to do Scrum anymore, right? And I'm imagining, you know, this is the end of the gig, but it worked out. All right, forgive me for the story, but Joe.
Yeah, I was just going to toss out, if you look up in Meetup, there are a couple of Agile coaching circle groups, and some of the sessions that they hold are basically these types of exercises. Sometimes it's a group on one, and sometimes and the organizer will often allow a couple of breakout sessions where it's more of a one-on-one type scenario. If people are trying to ask a particular question, or if people are more comfortable in a one-on-one coaching environment.
Oh, that's super cool. That's super cool. And actually that reminds me, Susan may know the answer to this. The Bay ALN Agile Coaching Circles thing, or actually maybe they even split off from Bay ALN, I can't remember, but is the Bay Area Agile Coaching Circles still a thing? Is that still happening?
Yeah, I think there is a subset of Bay ALN that is focused on coaching. So the Bay Agile Leadership Network meetup is one, and then there's also an Agile Coaching Circles meetup. Olaf, you might know more.
Yeah, so there used to be a coaching circle meetup, but that has morphed into systemic constellation special interest group meetup. So there's not really a Bay ALN coaching circle anymore.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I found that meetup tough.
Mm.
The
Well, it-
systemic stuff I was
it
talking
was-
about was tough.
Yeah, it was called Coaching Circles, wasn't it? And then that didn't just stop meeting.
Mm.
There's a meetup called Coaching Circles.
Yeah, I think that's the one we're talking about. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
I mean, does anyone work beside Doug and now they're worried?
Say that one more time.
I didn't hear
Does
that.
anyone work beside Doug and how they kind of worried now?
That's a fake scenario.
Yeah, fake scenario.
Oh, goodness. And I've got two links I'm dropping in the chat related to coaching stances. So the first is the coaching competencies white paper that Michael Spade and Lisa Atkins created like way back when they were first starting what turned into the Agile Coaching Federation, I think is what they called that organization. And they talk about the coaching stance or coaching stances in there. And then an article from Agile Know-How about 4 helpful stances.
First one isn't working. Maybe it's just me. The first link.
Is that one, is it down? Oh,
Database.
because that was an internal
the first link.
into our Moodle. Okay, I will try to find that document. Sorry. Yep. That was a link that linked in into our online learning environment that you have to be logged in for. Shame on me. But the name of the document actually is in there in the URL, Agile Coaching Competencies White Paper, Part 1, apparently. So if you look for that or look for Lisa Atkins Agile Coaching Competencies, just do a web search, you will find that document for sure. Kathleen.
Oh, I forgot to put my hand back down. I was just going to say that the link wasn't working.
Ah, okay.
So the link's not working.
All right. If somebody could help me out and see if they can find a good link to that one. Like I say, if you look for Lisa Atkins Agile Coaching Competencies White Paper, I would bet a fair amount of money that one is floating around out there and can be found. Ooh, and Susan dropped a link into the systemic coaching subgroup for the Bay ALN, or at least the Bay ALN in general that has that subgroup. Awesome. Anything else? Oh, look at that. Thank you, Olaf, for finding that white paper. This group is amazing. You all are really awesome.
Olaf has the best Google food.
Apparently I do.
Awesome. All right. I am going to stop the recording. So for those of you who are watching this later,